All right, folks, welcome back for another episode of Off the Grid. I wanted to welcome my next guest. He's an artist, producer, DJ out of San Francisco by way of North Carolina. Very active in the Bay Area scene and a mad prolific musician who has production credit for rappers on the Who's Who's list that include Action Bronson, Murs of Living Legends, Cool Keith, Master Ace, Equipto, and AWOL1. The list goes on. I wanted to welcome Brycon to the show. What is going on? Thank you, brother.
Hey,
Appreciate your time.
what's up? What's up, yo? Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Hey, thanks for taking time out of your weekend. Yeah, man. Just mad appreciated.
Oh, definitely, bro. I'm excited to do it, man.
Yeah.
These artists, we're trying to show up for what little media is still on the planet. So I'm excited to do it. Talk about some new music, whatever. Let's
Yeah.
run
Hey,
it.
well, let's get into it, man. Hey, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your move from North Carolina to Cali. Was that, were you young or was that an adult move already? What fueled the move from North Carolina to California?
Okay, no, that's a really good starting place. So, just a little bit before that, like I started doing music professionally coming out of college. I was like one of the least business savvy people in my collective. But then like I think like one night somebody needed to go collect the money. And I was like looking at it and I was like, oh, the club is trying to screw us. And I argued with them and I got our money and I was like, oh, this is just like yelling at, just like yelling at the power company or somebody when they try to play you. Like it's the same job. Man up and get your fucking paper. So I was just rapping and producing at that point, but then I started promoting shows, and then I started doing what we disaffectionately call the barnacle, where you you get an act and you book the tour and you cling to the side of them for that tour. You go out and open, and you're like, your DJ's DJing for them, and you're driving the van and drawing, making like you're doing like 19 jobs to qualify for the position of opening.
Yeah.
That's the previous incarnation. Now you just like give, you just give some guy $75 or whatever. I don't know how it works. But so I started doing that. I became like a small time booking agent, mostly doing hip hop, and a lot of, acts were like, low level indie acts we'd be familiar with. I took, that job more or less took me to California because the obscurity of North Carolina was getting to me. It would be like, you live where?
Yeah.
Asheville? I'll be like, no, in Asheville. Like, oh,
yeah.
What is that even, Yeah. So I was like, I didn't want to go to LA. I had some connections here, and I was familiar with, a booking agency that operated out of San Francisco. So I was like, let's do that. So
nice.
2005. So we're coming up on 20 years. So I came out, whatever. This is like a vague halfway point in my life. I'm in my 40s. So came to Cali, on a booking agent thing. Was still doing that for a while, and then kind of finally came back around to like, oh, I got into booking to do my music.
Yeah.
You just get down the road sometimes and realize you got to turn back around. So I got back into music.
Yeah.
Started connecting musically with some of the people I'd known personally through Grove City. And at that point we had a big, contingency of North Carolinians out here too, some of whom are still sort of scattered on the West Coast. But I like just found a place out here making music. And I've mostly been in San Francisco, but I had some time in Oakland and Berkeley and Sonoma County. But you've been triangulating San Francisco the whole time, and so now I've been making music here. Call it like 15 years. Definitely like I was making beats when I got to Cali, but I wasn't like super active. Putting out records and stuff. So man, it's good to just be like, hitting my stride and making tunes, let the music flow. Like, that's a big deal to me. So
yeah, it's awesome, man. A lot of good hip hop acts come out of North Carolina. I know J. Cole. I think Little Brother's from North Carolina too, right?
Absolutely, man. Yeah, and
yeah,
what, they've probably been at it 20 years now too. So that's
Yeah,
pretty incredible. I don't know those guys personally, but I've seen them put down a show like, yeah, about 20 years ago. And
that's
I was like,
crazy.
man, I was like, man, they can just like play a Al Green song and sing along. I was like, there's blow like stuff like that. I think seeing it then, I was
Yeah.
like confused, it was a little close-minded. Now I'm like, but you see the biggest acts get on stage and just
Oh,
dance around and sing somebody else's song. Like there's a critical side of hip hop fandom that says, like, what the heck is that? I love it, bro. I love seeing that. You just got somebody up there like, I love this music. I'm a fan too. We all should
yeah.
be, to some degree. And so yeah, I just, a big fan of their music. And Ninth and Justice League and
Yeah.
Rhapsody
Oh
and
yeah.
man, I mean, there were rappers out of North Carolina forever. There wasn't an
Yeah.
industry for them to belong to. But like I used to listen to this dude Omniscience,
Oh,
and he was
okay.
from Bear Mountain or something. I might have made
Wow.
it up. That's
Wow.
95, 96, So
Wow.
I mean, North Carolina is like the seventh borough. Like everybody, including myself, has, cousins or family in New York.
Yeah.
And there's like a exchange program, send New York kids to Carolina to get a country summer,
Yeah.
vice versa.
Yeah.
How young parents get by, right? You got to get some time away from your kids.
Yeah, man. I got a special place in my heart for North Carolina. I lived out in Fayetteville for about 3 years, and
Oh,
so
right
that's why I
on.
wanted to ask you about it.
Is that
But
like a military turn, or you were just out having fun in Fayetteville?
no, it was a tour out there for 3 years. Yeah, in
Yeah,
the
I mean,
early
like for
2000s.
people that
Yeah.
don't know, like North Carolina has a lot of military, and I
Yeah.
think it's interesting. Like, most people on the West Coast do not experience the South.
Hmm.
Um, it's a very, I'm not going to find the word here, but it's like like people see New England and it's like Boston and everything
Oh,
else
right, right. Yeah, yeah.
homogenized, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
very homogenized the way people look at it. But North Carolina, obviously, it's got its own personality.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, the presence of military is there almost no matter where you live. And you must have noticed they call Fayetteville Vietnam,
Vietnam,
and
right?
then
Yep, the
the one in
nickname.
Arkansas. I think that name must lend itself to the war zone. But yeah, dude, shout
Well,
out, man. You know what? Must have like artists in 3 dozen cities in North Carolina. So it's
yeah, no doubt, man. Well, wait, what about your background in music, man? What were you listening to? What did your parents expose you first in terms of music? What were you listening to in the household when you were young?
man, when I was the littlest, kindergarten or whatever, like we were just on like the big stars. It was like Prince and Michael Jackson.
Yeah,
I remember loving the Bangles. I was really
yeah.
into that.
Oh man,
Now my
that's good stuff.
parents' influences has nothing to do with that. But my mom, grew up in Detroit. She told me like, oh, if you couldn't dance, they would break your legs. So she had this like huge emphasis on like the difference between soul and bubblegum.
Yeah.
She was just like, my mom was just like shit on some oldies if it doesn't have. She was like, Motown, all that other shit is garbage. So mad funny about that. And around the house, I think her tastes, it changed by the time I was really absorbing music. So she would play
Okay.
things like Bonnie Raitt and Paul Simon. What can I say? Like,
Sure.
I definitely vibe to that. Side note, Paul Simon seems kind of like a trash human being, but as far as I can tell, Bonnie Raitt is pretty straight up. So
Okay.
man, and my dad is a folk musician. So
Okay. Oh wow.
I grew up around his music and his peers' music and like folk, but I also he just bought music like a nut, like a pack rat.
That sounds
I
like
don't
me.
Yeah, I mean, some people can't get cured of it. And if you have to
Yeah.
buy, if you need retail therapy, that's probably a good one. But yeah, he would just like have so much different shit. And then they
Yeah.
both had record collections. So like, the funny thing about a record collection is it like contains things people like and things people bought and never listened to. So,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
got like some Mingus and Modern Jazz Quartet from my dad. But like later, he was kind of like, yeah, I couldn't really get into anything with Modern Jazz Quartet, which is like not the most, rough and tumble jazz music. But my mom, my mom had a lot of like Motown and some folk and some obscure
Yeah.
stuff. And I gotta say, she's a little less involved with listening to music nowadays, but she's pretty, she's still
Yeah.
got pretty good taste. My dad's still making music.
Oh man. Nice.
Um, so I got to soak up a lot. And then, Charlotte is one of those places where like,
Right.
everybody like has a little group in school. Everybody's got a little vocal group, and like, even though Atlanta's pretty far, everybody's like, "Oh, I know the dude at La Facha." Like, I had a neighbor, and he was like, "We got an R&B group, and we're gonna sing for L.A. Reid." And I was like, "I mean, really? Like, can we still like go shoot hoops in a milk crate in my yard?" Like, I didn't. I was not good at deducing the truth from
Hey
people
man.
as a kid, so I like would just
Yeah.
believe. I'd be like, "Sick, bro. You gotta get me a record."
Hey, let's say that's a good start, man. Exposure, music wise, man. And at some point, you get introduced to rap. Do you recall the first rap song you heard, or?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, like I was aware of things like Roaches and like Run DMC
Yeah.
and Beastie Boys, but like that wasn't really my introduction. I
Hmm.
kind of like I'm like an 88, 89 era.
Okay.
So like uh I think I saw like School Days, but there wasn't like much hip hop on that soundtrack, right? I didn't, I wasn't really like differentiating music by genre at that
Yeah.
age.
Yeah.
But then
Exactly.
like De La and Fight the Power is pretty much
Oh,
like,
Public Enemy. Yeah.
yeah, really, really. I mean, just like a 1-2 punch at the same in the same moment for me, or maybe it's a little blurry, but something like that. And I had like an older friend who's like neighbor told us he was a rapper, and like so my he was like buying 12s.
Oh man.
So what is it, 90 or 91? It's like Diamond D and X Clan. And I don't think I really it was harder to perceive like what's super popular, and then but soon after that we actually have like videos on TV and stuff. So
Wow.
yeah, that's my introduction.
Yeah.
And I was like, buying up tapes and CDs, and then we had, like my dad would buy gear the same way he would buy a lot of music. So we had
Yeah.
not a turntable, but a record player. And so I was like, as soon as I could mess with physicals, I was, and I was
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
making giant, component stereos, like.
Yeah. Put them together, right? Yep.
Yeah, and I didn't like when I figured out you could just like run the wire into a speaker and then run the same wire back out to a next. I was like, I I had like the giant speaker stack in the corners of my room. So I was zoning, I was really zoning
Oh
on.
man, I forgot about that. I used to do the same thing too. It was like mixing the components with the speakers. That's hilarious, man.
Yeah, it was fun, man. Making pause tapes, all that stuff. So,
Yeah,
and
and
I
what was it?
really quickly like started like reading liner notes,
Yeah.
seeing sample info, and getting that stuff. Like really quickly, I was like, oh, Parliament, Thelonious Monk.
Right.
Like it was just right there. Like, and I didn't have a lot of like a frame of reference, but I'd just be like, well, it literally says what they sampled. It just
Yeah,
says it right
that's
here.
great.
Like it says what they sampled. You just go by that. So I was like immediately on that. Like,
Yeah, and
um,
I never did that. That's awesome that you did that at a young age where you check the liner notes and kind
I
of
think
learn
I
to
was
pick
just such
them.
a geek for liner notes. And like,
Yeah.
you think about all the stuff you can actually do with them, right? You
Yeah.
can read liner notes, sure. But what can you do? Like, you remember in the insanely comprehensive Chuck D shout outs, where he's like, God bless Chuck D. He's got a healthy approach to whatever sort of thing is going on upstairs. He's like, I will subdivide hip hop into 7 lists. And then I will alphabetize the lists. And then I will shout out every group. And he's like, shout out to my geography rapping, sweater wearing, sideways hat from Switzerland rappers. And it's like all 42 of them. You're like, all right, well, how bad can these groups be? So you could go listen to these groups, right?
Yeah.
That's a big list. You just look at like the sample info, you're like, wow, this is manageable.
Yeah.
Somehow these guys are mushing Donald Byrd and the Meters and James Brown all on the one song. Like, like, man, it's pretty complicated.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, like all you have to do is know key or not care about it. You can smush a bunch of stuff together, but like if you think about it from like just like a music perspective, you've got like 5 really big songs
Yeah,
all
yeah.
mushed to form what Back to the Hotel or something. It's
Oh
like,
wow.
you know what that's a just a random example. Probably doesn't reflect those statistics, but it's just funny how you can make one thing out of like
Many things. Yeah,
insane
yeah.
collection of parts. Like
Yeah,
you couldn't do it
absolutely.
legally nowadays, but
Yeah,
like
right,
but
right.
people don't really like make that. Even just making a style of that beat would be wild right now. Like, that's
Oh,
definitely the Khruangbin bass line and the Metallica
yeah,
symbol. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
to use like 5 really big groups all just for little snippets to make something. It's a trip. So
Yeah, and so
where
what
we
like
started, but that's a good
what
rambling
was
answer.
the catalyst, man? Did you have a buddy that you learned how to make beats with or write lyrics to? What was kind of that moment that
Yeah,
you
I
transitioned
think
from
I'm
band
sort of
to
alluding to it, right? It's the same
yeah,
guy. His name was Keith, and he lived like totally cross town, and he was a
yeah.
little older than me. And the kind of like torturous best friend, you know what I mean? Like he would like me take it, I'd be like, "Where the fuck is my new shit?" I'd go to his house, he'd be like, "In my shirt." I'd be like, "You motherfucker!" I'm fighting all the time and all kind of shit. Like he was viciously showing me the ropes. So
Nice.
yeah, he I think like the first thing we were doing is, being like taking an instrumental and making a beat,
Yep.
taking interludes and making a beat. We weren't like
Ah,
sampling, but I definitely like took that
some drums.
there's like a main source interlude at the end of a song, try to like loop that. And we had like songs and we had like a group where there was no like actual beat or recording, but it was like, well, we're rapping over this, and this beat is like a loop of the intro of a freestyle fellowship song, like that. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like,
Right.
so,
You gotta start somewhere.
but he didn't. I got gear first. You know what I'm saying? I may have had a little more like financial stability to do shit like that. This dude was like already working like an adult at like 14, you know what I'm saying? So he was like hustling hard.
Yeah, yeah.
uh you can not blame him for like hoisting my Cypress Hill merch from the house, but yeah, I got, my dad had like a 4 track,
Right.
and
Oh man, that's so
I
crazy.
got a little like not sampler. And then some people know about this. It's called the rock and play, and it's like big as like a you know hot dog or whatever. You take a couple samples and pitch them. You couldn't like trigger them really, and I don't think you could play them at the same time. You could take 2 samples, and so I
Yep.
would like get a loop and I'd record it to the 4 track, and then I'd
Okay.
like get another loop and I'd try to sync them up. I'd find the one spot on the 4 track where like my 3 or 4 little loops synced up, and I'd
Yeah.
loop that back, and like that was my beat. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
I got like a giant, DJ mixer where you could take loops. Kind of kept going with that style until I got like a Kai S20, which you may be familiar with
Yep.
with Fume's use. I still have some discs somewhere, but not the thing itself. And then like eventually, homies got an MPC, which I had like seen on the West Coast and used, but homies got one, and then I finally got my own like used one. I don't know when that would have been, 2000 or something. 2000.
Man, dude, that's awesome, man. And then you mentioned that you did music for a little bit, and then you eventually transitioned out to the Bay. And that must have been a culture shock a little bit, right? The Bay Area's got all sort of gangster rap and underground commercial. What was it
That's interesting
coming
to
from
think
North
about.
Carolina?
I guess so. There's so many like buzzword things that I have to think about after the fact and be like, have I experienced that?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, to be fair, like I'd spent a lot of time. I'd wanted to make a move for a while,
Okay.
but I think to a certain degree, there's still culture shock, right?
Mm,
Because like it's not off-putting or
right.
discombobulating, but it's inspiring. Um,
Yeah.
and like I have seen a lot of my peers go back, right? Go back east.
Oh, okay.
And certainly like it's something I've had to consider, family and practical concerns. I
Right.
kind of you might want to like own a phone booth or
Yeah.
something, have a
Cost of
window,
living.
have 2 tents instead of one some days, so the day is tough. in that regard.
Yeah.
But it's like you couldn't duplicate it no matter what.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like addictive.
Mm.
Uh, I'd say for the most part, it's pretty healthy. But some of the things about the Bay that aren't necessarily ideal for human survival will make you want to stay here. So
Yeah.
um, I just like I think it's hard to describe for people that haven't experienced it, but it's pretty like palpable once you're here for like whatever,
Yeah.
a day, a week. You can feel it if you go to the right places. And that's why, not that that's not even what we're talking about, but the like national and worldwide narrative of what things are like here. So silly in lieu of that. It's like, well, yeah, it has to be peak dystopia because it's like peak existence too. Like if you're an house person, you don't come to the Bay for the dystopia. You're not like, oh, it's gonna be we'll all suffer together. You're like, there's something good out here. There's like some
Yeah.
hope and there's something new. So I think like that's sort of it's that's like an old standing tradition.
Yeah. Sure.
Whether you like came out to work, uh, like whether you came out to work in the shipyards, or you're like an imported racist cop, or you're like a hippie, or you're like a techie that came out, like there's always going to be that like, woo, come on, fucking gold rush. It's like the same thing. So
Oh man.
I think like having sensationalized things to sell our image to, kind of, yeah, people miss the in between the lines, and that and then you try to emphasize the in between the lines. It's quite glaring.
Yeah.
It's
Interesting
crazy.
thought, man.
Thank you. Hey, I've been working on this one. Hey.
Well, hey, man. Did you have you always used Brycon? Was that what you were using in North Carolina, or
Oh,
what
that's
was?
funny.
Yeah.
Brycon is a smaller version of a much longer name. At one point, I was High Fesso Brycon,
Ah,
Gymno Carimbus. But Gymno Carimbus first, like that was the first thing to go. And then I was
uh-huh.
definitely like H Brycon. I put out at least a project with that name, got some credits, Discogs and whatnot. But then, yeah, Brycon. Slimmed it down to Brycon finally.
Yeah.
I definitely had like, I did a tape under another pseudonym way back in the day. Um, and it's possible that some of the stuff I did with my first group has me credited that way. But yeah,
Okay.
I think by maybe like second or third thing, I was kind of like on my way to that. Even recently, I realized I was a little confused about the origins of the name, but it's
I'm
basically like
curious.
a fish. It's a fish,
That's
you
right.
know.
I looked it up, man. So yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Did you
it's a
know that
Latin
when you?
name for a fish. Now I wasn't like, oh, I love fish. This is great for me. It was just
Right.
like,
Right.
oh, what a
Right.
silly ass long name. But
Yeah.
in reverse, I've come to identify with it. I was actually with Z-Man yesterday.
Okay.
He's pretty familiar with the origins and the whole fish thing. So I was looking
Yeah.
at this nice fish tile over at McLaren Park. Very nice fish tile.
Yeah, man. I do love the name, man. What a good sound, man. And dude, you've been busy, man, dude. I mean, I'm going through your catalog. You got an extensive catalog of dope music. And I was talking to you a little bit earlier before we did this interview about some of your newer projects, man. Let's start with the new Duarte CP that you put out with Nord on Spitslam, man. How did that come about? What was the
Well,
origin of that project?
first off, I want to commend you and not correct you on saying the name of that restaurant properly, because this is really why we made a record called, and forgive me for this, the record's called Duarts.
Oh man,
Now, listen,
yeah.
this is a point of contention. I'm not from there. Nord is from Half Moon Bay, and
Mhm.
obviously I'm from North Carolina.
Yeah.
My mom is a bit of a foodie. She put me onto that spot, and I've been 5, 6 times, and I'd never heard that. Duarts, never heard it. Duartes, like uncelebrated NBA player Chris Duarte, right?
Right, dude.
All right, I'm going to pause for a second. Excuse me.
Okay. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so Nord and his wife were at the studio.
Okay.
And I don't know what tune we're working on, but we're working on something for the record. And I'm like, oh, well, y'all live in Half Moon Bay. Do you ever go to Duarte's in Pescadero? And they're like, Duarte's? I was like, yeah, Duarte's. You got to know. It's like the only thing about it. They're like, it's called Duarte. I was like, what, are you kidding me? That's not how you say that word, right? Like, they're like, no, it's Duarte, blah, blah, blah. And, of course, yeah. Like, any reference to it in media is Duarte's. But that poor sucker just had to listen to people butcher his name until he just caved.
Oh,
it's got to be that, right? It's got to be that. Like poor, what is his name? Frank Duarte. He was selling what? He had a barrel of liquor.
Yeah.
He paid a nickel, and he would pour you some. And those drunk, Duarte, you're an all right sort. You know what I mean? He's like, fine, it's Duarte's. So that's the joke. It's a pun.
Yeah.
Right? It's you hate to start something with a pun, but here we are. So it's really, it was like, okay, well, we took that joke and we're like, well, first off, we'll kind of have like a subplot to this record, right? About the restaurant, but also a vague allusions to the confusion about the pronunciation. So when he says, we do arts for breakfast, like, no, we don't go eat chapino, right? Like, and it's got like some stuff from the Basquiat movie and Fab Five Freddy, right? It's got little art. It's got food. It's got food and restaurant interludes and references, but it's also got like graffiti and just art school stuff too. And then to cap it all off, we got a little Scalabrini at the end. They're talking about, right, Chris Duarte. That was a little nod to like what I think might be the proper pronunciation. But yeah, as far as the spot, I mean, I reckon he had been there enough to have a little bit of cachet when we went in. And we were like, hey, we're doing a record kind of about this place. So like, can we take some pictures? And they were cool about it. And I was like, bro, I'm a big fan. I love like a Roadhouse vibe. And like seafood is like, I don't know, my favorite thing in the world. So yeah, to make a record about a restaurant. I mean, I could keep doing this forever. Like I could make an album about hundreds and hundreds of restaurants.
Man, yeah, that was great. The photos were great, and the album was great, man. Lyrically, he tore it up, and just the production was awesome. And how long did it take you guys to put the album together? Was that a long project, or?
That's interesting. So, well, I could do very fastidious research, but I think it was about probably a little faster than some. I think about 2 years max.
Okay.
We may have just started working together 2 years ago and done a couple other things. I think we have a El the Sensei collab.
Nice.
In the tuck somewhere. And I'm pretty sure that's the first thing we did. We got introduced through Cypher, the MC and producer. I'm gonna call him a producer now because Cypher making beats like crazy now. So he might, I think like they might have come through to work on something together for another producer. But yeah, I met like the whole Outsider Syndicate through Cypher, and I've been doing some work with IMF as well. And then I gave them like 3 joints for the whole crew. I think 1 is already out. Okay. Nothing less than golden. So I mean, between you and me, I'm like working with a lot of rappers, I'm having fun. Yeah, dude. That. And,
you stay busy, man. I love
thanks, bro. And it's like I don't want to deflect, but like it's always just like it's just the tip of the iceberg. Like my career is always like Do I have a solid place to live?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, now I can put out records. And it's like, I just need to be able to focus, not do other shit. I'm not gonna go like I'm not out here like filming a video and climbing Mount Everest. I'm just like,
Yeah.
we're doing the projects, we're putting them out. They're gonna live forever. We can
Yeah,
always
that's
go
right.
back if we want. And as a person who's probably like suffered under the weight of silly music making dogmas, I'm kind of like, fuck it.
Hmm.
And I think I can feel good about that. Kind of like, yeah, fuck it.
Yeah, are you mixing and mastering everything too, or just
Now, I'm not a mastering guy and I will mix, but my
okay.
preference is to give it to somebody.
Yep.
I appreciate the objectivity,
Yeah, yeah.
you know. But I'm a producer first and an engineer, whatever, third or fourth. Let's see.
Yeah.
So with Deegan, who does a lot of the Outsider Syndicate stuff, master do arts, but I mixed it.
Gotcha.
So I'm actually pretty happy with the mix on the most of it.
Yeah, no, it sounded great, man. And just
Yeah,
again,
thank you.
I just love that you're a prolific guy, and you got a great song out with Oteo Dub that you did.
Oh
Holy
man,
smoke, man,
I
that was
just hit him
awesome.
today. Teo is so raw, he's got a whole Rocky Rivera project.
Yeah, yeah, I saw that's going down, man. I think the video just came out, but yeah,
Yeah, well, they're super. Both of them are super super sick. So I'm excited about that. And yeah, I feel like Teo and I have some more in the chamber too.
yeah, I hope so.
But definitely
Good.
someone I'm excited to work with. Like when him and Quipto did Baby Steps, there's some really great stuff on there.
Mhm.
I've been a fan of his for a while. We used to like share a studio too, so got to
Oh
see him
man,
work.
let's get into your new project with the legendary producer architect, man. Samsonite
Yeah.
Survivor, man. 20 tracks, man. Action packed. You just dropped that last month, August 13th. Yeah, I'm curious how you guys connected, man, and put that project together.
I first saw like Architect performing at Hyro Day in the
Hmm.
A Plus doing like a Sound Clash
Right.
set. I
He
think they had
spun
like
for
a
them. He
crew.
was like their DJ for the tour.
This is yeah, exactly. So that's
Yeah.
later on in their connection. But this, I don't know if they had a production team together or an album, but the two of them were like like Sound Clash style, beat for beat.
Yeah.
And first of all, like people who don't know about like A Plus, the producer, right? He made
Oh,
93 till infinity. Like the amazing thing about one of the amazing things about Souls is so many different producers able to like tap into the same zone, right? And
no.
so I mean, 93 till infinity, amazing
Legendary.
song.
Yeah.
Shout out A Plus too for like evolving the lyrics of that song in real time through the years. I think I've seen Souls of Mischief more than I've seen any other like golden age group. They're
Lucky.
incredible. I'm a huge
Yeah.
fan.
They kill it, man.
Inspired to
Every
like get to be
time.
like, we're not like buddies, but I'm like, hey, and they're like, oh, what's up? What are you doing here? Now that's great for like 14-year-old me. Couldn't be happier about that.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
anyway, so I saw these dudes, and like I came into like the beat scene kind of sideways, more been like producer for rappers. But I'm like, oh, very interesting. People playing beats. Wow. I'm watching these guys, and then I think, Architect just started popping up more after that moment, and I would see him with the two 404s.
Okay.
I think at a later High Road, maybe like a year later at a High Road Day, he's like at the silent disco with the two 404s. I'm seeing him do beat sets, and I hadn't really used the 404 too much, but definitely like fascinated to see somebody DJing with two. Right, I
Yeah.
thought that was super sick. And so this is where it gets a little blurry for me. I'm just gonna guess, like so many good things in my life, Equipto is responsible. Equipto probably was like, this guy makes beats, this guy makes
Yeah.
beats. You guys go stand over there. So, whatever. We like got to know each other a little bit.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, well, I'm looking for a studio space. And I just moved down the hall in
Okay.
my studio space, and the dude next to me was evacuating. And I was like, oh, dude, there's a space. So he moved into the studio next door. And for
Oh,
a while, I would like, we'd be, some days the door would be open, hear what each other is working on. I'd be like, oh, try and flip this, and he'd do something crazy, and I'd like sit in there and smoke herb and just like
It's
observe
awesome,
his
man.
process, and he'd have we
Right.
both have artists coming through, and he'd be like, yo, I need a singer for this commercial, and I'd be like, oh, I'll have the homie come through, and we were like working together doing all kind of
Sick.
different shit. I mixed some songs, I did some remixes that we never did anything with, like just whatever, right? Studio zone. And so, I mean, through that, I got to absorb a little bit of what he does, which is really, like educational for me. And we're like looking for a way to work together. And I
Sure.
kind of had the concept for the project just from like, zoning out and coming up with ideas. And I felt like it would make sense, like an instrumental album. You can
Yeah.
like really, really buckle down and be like, it means so much. It means so much. But, I know for a fact some people aren't going to like dig into the deeper layers. So I was just like,
Yeah.
it's this vibe of beats. I know you have these, and I picked out a batch.
Yeah.
It's sort of that sort of process for like, well, I have these, and then got some of his that match those, and then swap some out on my side to make it more cohesive. I think
Right.
like I maybe would have been cool to like go back and forth track wise, but in the end, like the
Yeah.
way it's built online,
10-10.
you don't
Yep.
really know what's what though.
No,
You
no,
might
no.
know off Bandcamp,
That's right. But
but
you
if
you
you
don't.
listen online, it's just like 10 and
Smooth.
10.
Smooth,
And
bro.
I
Yeah.
mean, I like, if we do another tape, maybe I'll do it that way, or I'll just put his tracks up front. Like I feel like, it all has to even out in the end. But
Yeah. It
like with the
worked out
Sugi
great.
tapes, yeah, thank you, bro. I mean,
Yeah.
I got to like curate his half, so that was super fun.
Oh, that's cool.
The amount of stuff I got to hear in that process. And
Yeah.
I could have just made it. I could have just been like, oh my God, bangers. I wasn't like, I could have made it just like, smash your head beats, because God, what
Yeah.
he handed me was like crazy, but
Yeah.
I wanted it to just be like kind of like suspense and creepy and like weird structures and odd sounds, not like
No, you handpicked them
man.
straight, man. That was great.
Thanks,
I,
man. Yeah, I
I
love doing
like
stuff
the
like that. Like,
description on the Bandcamp. It says that it's the first official collaboration between the two producers, and it's dedication. It's dedicated to the fine luggage and true cost of life on the road, man. That was on point, man. It was great.
thank you, bro. Hey, man. I write under a pseudonym. I'm always doing bios and press releases. So I feel like I'm in a
Ah, okay.
good creative streak with my writing. Well, I used
Yeah,
to be a much more active lyricist, so I have to have
yeah.
an outlet for my writing somewhere. I did get off a couple bars though on that Nord record. I'm not gonna front.
Like you said, man, I liked it, man. I didn't mind that it wasn't back to back. I thought it was a good full album. I'm glad it was like 20 tracks too, man. I was like, man, you get the bang for your buck, man, on that project. So really cool. Yeah. Yeah, it's a good. I got a long commute to work, so I threw that thing on, and it was a good ride, man.
That's awesome. Did you think you were gonna get pulled over?
No, no,
Not even
no,
once.
no, but hey, man, Darwin Bag, Drought Myth, Other Road, those were my favorites from your set, man.
Thank you,
Great.
bro. Yeah, I'm really juiced on those. I think Other Road, um, and Darwin Bag. I just gotten one came from Bogota and the other came from Quito.
Oh man,
Um, so I just was traveling in, I don't know if it was April or May, but
wow,
trying to make these little like these quick digs and little
yeah,
piles really effective. And yeah, like I'm really juiced on a Darwin Bag. Check this out, bro. So almost pretty much just lost that, right? Me and my brother, Bad Santa, we went to a store in Quito in the nice neighborhood
okay,
called, I believe it's called Lava.
mm,
That's what I'm thinking. So, and they're real cool in there, right? They have a nice setup, and then they have some dollar stuff, and then
okay,
they have the 45s is just mayhem, bro. Right? Like it's like dogs or wolves are in charge of the 45s, and like uptight humans run the rest of the store. So we've been there enough times that I'm like, hey, is it cool if I play the records? Like, because they have a turn, you know. And I'm like, yeah, go for it. So they turn off whatever crazy shit they're playing, and I'm going through these sevens and whatever. I think we bought like 6, 8 records, right?
Okay.
And like a little bit of memory of what they were, just a little bit.
Yeah.
And so we're, you know, my brother's family is like just taking a walk, you know, and we purchased the records. We're just standing there. My brother is just like, ah, fuck. Ah, fuck. And I'm like, bro, what's going on? He's like, dude, I completely fucking forgot. I'm like, what is this dude talking about? So Quito is like a huge city, right? Millions of people. And in order to mitigate the flow of traffic, they have divided up the population. Certain days you can go out at a certain time.
Okay.
Because the highway is going to be insanely congested regardless. But you're like a Wednesday, Friday, alternating Sunday.
Mm.
And someone else is a Thursday, Saturday, right? It's just like that. And it's like not our day. And we got to go to the airport. And he's like, oh, I fucked up. And I'm going to have to like bribe a cop.
Shit.
It's like his very first reaction.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm like, oh, calm down. It's cool. Like, no, you know, we're going to be fine. And he takes his money and puts it in his sock and has like $30 in his wallet, you know, like that's an exorbitant bribe. So we pile in the car, me and him and his wife and the baby. And they have like a young adult daughter. So like we all pile in the car and we drive to like the airport hotel. We park the car and then we get the cab comes to meet us. And we all pile in the cab with all the same stuff, right? Move all our stuff from one car to another. And we go to the airport and we fly, right? And then like we get back, or he gets back. This is a little blurry. The records from that day, like nowhere to be found. And I was like, oh, I thought they were in this thing, right? We had like a mailer for a 12. It gets opened up. There's no 7s. Maybe I think I just carried the mailer around and didn't check it, right? What for? Like, oh, look at my record, you know, like so we're like, oh, what happened to these records? So he like at first he calls the store, and then he calls the cab, and there's nowhere to be found. And I'm like, damn, what do we get? I'm like trying to remember. Oh, one was on Teen. Like, great. It's a record label with like, I don't know, hundreds of records, right? Great. Oh, I think one was by the dude, so-and-so. Anyway, then like eventually I think the cab company hits them up and they're like, yo, we have a book. And in the book were some of these records. Are these your records? And they're
crazy.
They're like in the Dante Ross book. I'm like, yeah, that's our records in the Dante Ross book. Highly recommend. So Bad Santa's like, yeah, or is this all of them? And I'm like, man, I think there were a few more, but this is great. So one of those Darwin bag is like, he still has the record, right? But I just went on YouTube and sampled it. I was like, hey, yeah, sick. Like that got recovered.
Yeah.
You know, from the deepest depths of total disappearance. So
man, yeah, that's a great project, man. And I can't remember, did you guys press copies of that, or was that a digital release?
That may be on deck for the future.
Okay.
One thing I think you can always do is and I hate Amazon, but I'm pretty sure you can always buy like one CD from Amazon, right?
Yeah. Yep.
They used to do that. They would just like make like they have their own like weird
pressing
template they'll reformat your digital cover and make people a CD. So if you need one, good. That's what I recommend right now. I would be like make tapes for everything, but I'm just like getting out these releases.
The Dynasty video that had Nug Life and Rocky on it.
Oh man,
that was another good one, man. Holy cow!
Yeah, those guys are crazy, man.
How'd you end up connecting with them?
You know, it's pretty funny, man. Once upon a time, I DJ'd a party uh, at the old tree house, and that was oddly planted the seed for
Okay.
us to come together way, way later. But as of more recently, you know, been doing some shows with Rocky G and
Yeah, he's
uh,
sick, man.
you know, trying to connect on this beat or that. And then I saw actually, you know, I've been like checking out what Nug Life had been doing. Of course, I was aware of
Both
both of
though.
them, you know, from maybe 7, 8 years ago, right?
Hmm.
You know, around them both, as they were like really, I don't know exactly because I would assume Rocky's been playing his whole life, but you know, they were like establishing themselves as artists, as young artists, you know.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you know,
Great
even
track.
now you look at it like Rocky's got a band and releases, and Nug Life has got a whole machine. But anyway, I saw Nug Life put up like an ad, like, you know, I'm looking for people on the team. And I was like, hey, bro, you know, I do music business, but more than anything, I just need let's, you know, do some music, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I sent him like a few beats, and we had one in the chamber, and then that one came up, and we just did it up. So that turned around really fast. It's super cool. It's always exciting, and I love how it came out, man. You know,
Yeah.
from
That
just the
was a good
audio
one.
to the message it sends from the very beginning, you know. So and I'm excited that's part of the re-release of his album.
Oh, okay.
And that's out now. So I'm like, you know, like doubly excited to have that great song included on a release that's got a lot of other like notable artists and a lot of other
Yeah.
great music. So shout out Nug Life,
Yeah.
Rocky G, big fan of both. And I'm
Hey.
excited to connect with these guys on some more music. You know, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And let's transition to another thing that you do. You're a man of many hats, man. I want to talk to you a little bit about Zero Data Studios, man. And so I saw you guys do film composition work, custom stuff, man. You want to talk to me a little bit about Zero Data and what it's all
Yeah,
about?
thank you, man. So you know, the zero data guy is essentially he's a little floppy disk with a zipper for a mouth. And I feel like he's from the same cartoon universe as like Charlie Tuna or something like that. That's something I designed, you know,
Uh-huh.
and it basically like houses my creative ventures away from the Brycon name and my business ventures. So you know, like I
Yeah.
was saying, I do a lot of artist and indie work, and that starts with here. How do I unblur the background, right? So I
Yeah.
will unblur the background. You guys can step with me into the studio if I can ever figure out how you do it because I don't know how you do that. Just check it out. So welcome to Zero Data Studios, everybody. Yeah, you know I have a production studio right here in my beautiful home. You know what I'm saying?
Nice.
And a lot of the music you're hearing lately is
Yeah.
coming right out of this room. We got the requisite leather couch, very modern take on the recording closet. You know what I'm saying? Just open up your closet, boom, bong, bing.
Sure.
So I do everything here from like custom production
Yeah.
to just traditional vocal production. You know,
Okay.
people bring me all kind of material to work with, but I love to, you know, make a tune on the spot like we've always done, right? So,
Yeah.
you know, making something from the ground up is like uh always super engaging and fun, and having the artist to guide you is great because as you compose on your own, you sort of have a chorus of artists. Where does this go? What does this sound like? It's great to just have one. You can kind of hone in on what people want. And then, yeah, you know, I do a lot of collaboration in here with other
Uh,
producers. Shout out Maitre D and Phrase Vader. Um, I'm getting a lot of opportunities to stretch my legs musically. Um, and you know, eager to show out different musical sides.
yeah.
This has been a great space for that in
Awesome.
particular, and this year gonna get to you know continue to release stuff with a really diverse list of artists,
Yeah.
and I'm really excited. And then yeah, like you know, as far as just being like a place for indie artists to like help find their direction. You
I
know,
love it, man.
I've done the art direction for a ton of projects, including, and I think I'm a little mistaken now putting my stamp on the Do Arts thing, which I developed, you know, all these ideas, right? I'm like, make the soup the CD. That's my art direction. So I'm really proud of like my ability to step into things and take a different creative role
Okay.
for what it takes. Like I said, I wrote some bars on that album just about that, about taking things into your own hands to get things done creatively. And yeah, from art direction to like film work, which I've done some documentary work and hoping to do more dramatic and comedic stuff as far as scoring and songwriting.
Nice.
I'm really just about like having fun and learning in the process,
Sure.
and I'm always like welcoming a challenge for a new artist to come in here and find their voice. And, just something I always want to get better at, because for all the things you might do in music, you can produce too. I can produce without touching a button, and I'm happy in that role. So let's just like keep that going as long as we can. That's a good deal for me.
Well, hey man, yeah, I just thought it was amazing that you do that as well, and just from start to finish, man, that's great. And another thing I appreciate too is, man, just I'm not exactly sure where you find the time to do all these things, but you're a very active DJ, man. You're out, you're doing events all the time. I know you. I think you got like a residency at one place that you do out there weekly, but can you talk about that part of your life, man? Just going from gig to gig and just performing and staying in the scene. That's awesome that you stay very relevant, active, and you're still just doing so many
Man,
things.
I appreciate it, man. I feel like grateful to get opportunities in a place with uncountable amount of DJs out there. I'm sort of like a funky open format guy. I still really think in the terms of like what my vinyl set is like, even when I'm doing digital stuff.
Yeah,
I think I have like a methodology I like to put to work when I can. By the same token, the job of the DJ has evolved so much over the
yeah,
years.
sure.
Sometimes you're very much like you're a caterer or a waiter,
Yeah, that's
and
right.
you have to be able to do it all and be okay with that result. That's definitely like tested me at times.
Yeah,
But
sure.
I'm really grateful to get like gigs where I get like carte blanche, and that's been really good for me. It's also been a little harmful to like my tolerance for other things, right? But for the most part, like yeah, man, San Francisco and the surrounding areas give me opportunities to go play
Yeah,
music I love,
that's great.
and
That's
I'm
great.
really rooted in like you know 65 to 75. Like I love that era. Like I was talking earlier, I got a lot of like things like Stax and high records and James Brown. I mean, and Motown too. I don't want to undersell that, or just like you know, it just shaped my ear. And so even when I'm listening to music from other parts of the world or other genres, it's still I want to hear like that era. I guess I want to hear
Yeah.
like those textures and that style of mixing.
Hey, man, shout out to you for doing all that stuff. Samsonite Survivor, everybody got to check that out. But again, you got an extensive catalog, man. You've been very exciting to listen to and just follow, man. So I really appreciate the time.
Hey, likewise, bro. Thanks for taking some time out with me, man. This was great too.
All right, final question for you is if you could have dinner with anybody, dead or alive, who would that person be?
Shit. Who would definitely pick up the check no matter what? Um, I feel like Babyface Nelson or somebody weird like that.
All right.
Someone that's just crazy.
Thanks,
Um,
thanks for
then
interesting.
again, though, I love to go out to eat, but I hate it when people are rude
Yeah.
to the server. So, um, like Ludacris would probably be pretty funny to go to like a Waffle House with.
Oh, dude, he'd be fun. Yeah, for
Is
sure.
that part of the question? Like, where are we going to eat? I think these should be more specific. So I would like to go to like one of those sushi boat restaurants with like all the famous celebrity dogs. Like, they have to seat us. And it's like none of the dogs have their handlers. It's like whatever weird Labor Day. It's like, oh my God. The celebrity dogs are here.
Well, good, man. Well, hey, thanks again for your time. I appreciate it, man. Any special projects you want to tell us about that may be coming in the future before we sign off?
Absolutely, man. I'm excited to announce Ilsugi and I have a third project coming out, Shadow of a Tree.
Nice.
And we are tapes for that. So I'm excited. We finally got to make some music in the same place at the same time. So
very cool, man.
I'm releasing a reggae project. Totally unnecessary white guy dub.
Yeah, look forward to that, man. Any final words before we close this thing? I look
Oh
forward to
man, hey, anybody who tuned into this, thank you, man. Check out my music. You know, there'll be less jokes on the albums, but it's still pretty good time.
Well, good. Hey, take care, man. I'll keep in touch. Enjoy the rest of your long weekend, man. I appreciate you.
All right, appreciate it, bro. Take care. Peace.